Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Okay, preemptive light, let's go. Dutch Monarchs family tree this time. I'm curious to see what happens at the William of Orange, England crossover stuff. So I'm excited for that. I'm sure he's going to explain it. Hi, guys. My name's Connor if you're new. I feel like that was a weird... I'm not restarting. Not restarting. First video of the day. If I restart on an intro, it never... Go. Original link to the video, top of the description. Below that, link to the Discord. Love to have you. Get ready to learn. If you're not ready, just get ready.
Hi, this is Matt Baker. Today I'm going to show you the family tree of the stadholders of the Dutch Republic, as well as the monarchs of the Netherlands. So I'll be starting with William the Silent, who helped establish Dutch independence in 1581, and going all the way down to the current King of the Netherlands, Willem-Alexander. And going all the way down to the current King of the Netherlands, Willem-Alexander. I'll be using the latest version of our European Royal Family Tree West chart. However, near the end, I'll also be using our matrilineal dynasties of Europe chart, because for the last 132 years, the Netherlands has coincidentally had 4 monarchs in a row from a single matrilineal line, which is something unique in European history.
So is that just a king had 4 generations without a male heir?
If you want to purchase either of these charts as a poster, you can do so by visiting our website.
You guys always making fun of my big mug.
Okay, let's get to it.
Ready.
The Netherlands is located in a part of Europe called the Low Countries. In fact, the word nether means low, so we could also call it the lowlands. It gets its name from the fact that most of its territory is located at or below sea level. The Low Countries were part of Charlemagne's empire and then ended up as part of the Holy Roman Empire. However, eventually they came to be ruled by a French prince named...
Question is... So is the high country in Europe anywhere like in the Alps, and the low country is anywhere near the coasts, or does it only count north of the Alps? Not that important. Never mind. Sorry.
Roman Empire. However, eventually they came to be ruled by a French prince named Philip the Bold from the house of Valois-Burgundy. However, his line came to an end with his great-great-granddaughter, Mary the Rich. She was nicknamed the Rich because she inherited most of the Low Countries, and by that point, the Low Countries were one of the most prosperous parts of Europe. Mary married Maximilian from the House of Habsburg, who went on to become the Holy Roman Emperor.
I just sneezed.
Most prosperous parts of Europe. Mary married Maximilian from the House of Habsburg, who went on to become the Holy Roman Emperor. This greatly benefited their grandson Charles, who wound up with one of the best inheritances of all time. From his paternal grandparents, he inherited the Archduchy of Austria, the Low Countries, and the title of Emperor. And from his maternal grandparents, he inherited the crowns of both Aragon and Castile, which by that point also included all of southern Italy. So Charles became both Charles I of Spain and Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. Now, near the end of his life, he made a wise decision. He decided to split his lands, giving Austria and the title of Emperor.
So is this the height of Spanish power, like ever, you know, around Charles V, or is it a little bit further down?
He decided to split his lands, giving Austria and the title of Emperor to his brother Ferdinand, and giving the Low Countries and Spain to his son Philip II. By this point, the Low Countries were comprised of 17 provinces, the largest of which was Holland. This is why, to this day, some people still refer to the Netherlands as Holland, even though Holland is actually just one part of the Netherlands. Anyhow, during the reign of Philip II, several nobles from the Low Countries started to rebel and fight for independence.
Guys, has the Netherlands been so valuable throughout history because it... I wish I had a bigger, more zoomed out map. But because if you control trade around the world and you want to sell your goods to mainland Europe, then it seems like the best port area or place to unload your goods would be the Netherlands or Holland area. And is that why it was so changed hands so often?
The largest of which was Holland. This is why, to this day, some people still refer to the Netherlands as Holland, even though Holland is actually just one part of the Netherlands. Anyhow, during the reign of Philip II, several nobles from the Low Countries started to rebel and fight for independence. This was largely due to the fact that, by this point, Christianity in Europe had become divided between Catholics and Protestants. Philip II was Catholic, but most of Holland was now Protestant, in particular, Calvinist. The rebellion was known as the Dutch Revolt, the word Dutch referring to the ethnicity and language of the Low Country people. The main leader of the Dutch Revolt was a man named William the Silent from the House of Orange-Nassau. He was a descendant of Otto I, one of the first counts of Nassau. Ironically, Nassau is actually located in what is today Germany, not the Netherlands. Early on in the House of Nassau's history, Otto's nephew Adolf...
Pretty sure it's the capital of the Bahamas, too. I don't know if it's related.
...actually served as King of Germany, although he was never crowned Holy Roman Emperor. The word Orange refers to the Principality of Orange, which was actually located in France. William the Silent inherited that little plot of land from one of his cousins, which is why, to this day, the color orange is still associated with the Netherlands. So, in 1581, 7 of the 17...
Sorry, but
with the Netherlands. So...
This right here is where I'm really curious what happens.
In 1581, 7 of the 17 Dutch provinces declared independence from the Spanish king and became known as the Dutch Republic, or the United Provinces. William the Silent became their de facto leader, although keep in mind that he was not actually a monarch. Instead, he held the title of stadtholder in several of the provinces, the word stadtholder meaning something close to governor. William the Silent was assassinated in 1584, at which point his eldest son, Philip William, succeeded him as Prince of Orange. However, it was his second-born son, Maurice, who ended up becoming stadtholder of most of the United Provinces. Maurice continued to fight the Spanish, who had not yet recognized Dutch independence, and upon his elder brother's death, he ended up obtaining the title Prince of Orange as well. During his tenure, the 30 Years' War began, and the Spanish-Dutch conflict ended up becoming a part of that larger conflict.
He reigned for 40 years, huh?
Maurice never married, though, so upon his death, the leadership of the Dutch Republic and the title Prince of Orange went to his younger brother Frederick Henry, and then to Frederick Henry's son, William II. In 1648, the 30 Years' War came to an end, and the Spanish finally recognized Dutch independence. But just 2 years later, William II died of smallpox, just 1 week before the birth of his only child. Thus began the Dutch Republic's first stadtholderless period, in which there was no adult Prince of Orange to serve as the de facto leader. However, during this period, a high-ranking official named Johan de Witt ended up filling the power vacuum, dominating Dutch politics for about 2 decades, until his grisly death by a mob. By this point, William III was now 21, so he was finally offered the title of stadtholder. He then married his first cousin Mary, who was an English princess, a move that ended up having major consequences for British history, when a group of nobles invited William and Mary to invade England and depose the Catholic king James VII and II.
And it worked.
At this point, the pair became joint monarchs of both England and Scotland. So, for a brief period, there was a Prince of Orange who was both the de facto leader of the Dutch
I sort of like the flag. At first, I'm like, ugh, but the more I'm like, huh.
Republic, as well as king over all of Great Britain. But William and Mary didn't have any children. So, upon William III's death, the thrones of England and Scotland passed to Mary's sister Anne, and the Dutch Republic entered its second stadtholderless period. However, the title of Prince of Orange passed to William's 14-year-old first cousin once removed, John William Friseau. He was a descendant of William the Silent via a female line. However, through his male-only line, he was also a descendant of William the Silent's brother Johann, and thus still a member of the House of Nassau. Now, John William Friseau is mostly known among those interested in royal genealogy because up until last year, he was the most recent common ancestor of every current European monarch. Here's a chart made by a fan, which shows his connection to 10 current monarchies. However, since the death of Queen Elizabeth II, there's actually a new, most recent common ancestor. And that is Louis IX, the Landgrave of Hesse-Darmstadt. This chart was also made by a fan and can be found over on the Useful Charts subreddit. John William Friseau actually died by drowning at the age of 23. However, his only son, William IV, was born 6 weeks after his death. That son went on to become the first Prince of Orange to be appointed stadtholder of all 7 United Provinces. He married Anne, the daughter of George I of Great Britain, and together they had William V, who ended up becoming the longest-serving ruler of the Dutch Republic, but also its last.
44
This is because
years?
in 1795, the Batavian Republic was declared, inspired by the French Revolution. Remember, although the Dutch Republic was technically a republic, it wasn't really a true republic because of the hereditary nature of the stadtholder position. So, the Batavian Republic was an attempt to create a more French-style republic, with the name Batavia harking back to the name of the region during Roman times. But of course, in France, the French Republic was soon replaced by the reign of this guy here, Napoleon, who ended up conquering most of Western Europe, including the Low Countries. He created the Kingdom of Holland as part of the French Empire and appointed his younger brother Louis as king. However, Louis refused to act as a mere puppet. And
Okay, sorry, go.
And therefore Napoleon set, however, Louis refused to act as a mere puppet, and therefore Napoleon set out to reconquer Holland. At this point, Louis I abdicated in favor of his 5-year-old son.
Wait, just let me.
Refused to act as a mere puppet, and therefore Napoleon set out to reconquer Holland. At this point, Louis I abdicated in favor of his 5-year-old son, Louis II, who reigned for just 9 days before Napoleon took the country back for himself. Of course, Napoleon was eventually taken down by a coalition of other European countries. At this point, the Kingdom of the Netherlands was established, with the Prince of Orange, William VI, becoming King William I. And in addition to receiving the northern provinces that had previously been part of the Dutch Republic, he also received the southern provinces
Luxembourg.
that had previously remained under the control of the Habsburgs. However, as part of the deal, he agreed to swap his ancestral lands in Nassau, Germany, for the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Luxembourg remained independent, but was in personal union with the Netherlands. So, William I was not only the first king of the Netherlands, but also the first Grand Duke of Luxembourg. However, William I was not able to hold on to the southern provinces. In 1930, there was a revolt in the south that resulted in Belgium breaking away and forming its own independent kingdom. They chose Leopold I from
Belgium is such an odd country for me. And we drove to Brussels. We drove from Normandy, or from London to the Channel to Normandy. and then up to Brussels to Amsterdam, down all the way to Munich, into Austria, Switzerland, back up to Paris, back to London. And it was an awesome country, but it's just so, it seems like it doesn't have like a defined identity. I hope that's not upsetting anyone, but like when I think of France, France, Germany, Germany, even Dutch, like I think of Dutch, Denmark, Denmark, but Belgium, I'm like, I almost feel as if I'm gonna make someone angry. I'm just like, never mind. Just I just wonder why Belgium is its own country rather than split up between Germany and France and Netherlands, or Netherlands and France. I'm not saying it should be. I'm just, it's curious. It's just I don't.
From the house of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to be their king, and that house continues to rule in Belgium to this day. In the Netherlands, William I actually ended up abdicating in favor of his son, William II, who then died unexpectedly after just 8 years. However, shortly before his death, revolutions broke out all over Europe in the year 1848, and this led to a new constitution for the Netherlands, one that made the country a parliamentary democracy. William III wasn't happy.
I do want to learn more about different types of government. I think I'm going to watch videos about that after this. You guys put some in the Discord channels.
A parliamentary democracy. William III wasn't happy with being king under the new constitution.
Sorry, is parliamentary democracy? I'm not going to look it up just because I'm going to learn about it after this. But Leopold. Second. Parliamentary democracy. Is that just when you have, or sorry,
that made the country a parliamentary democracy?
So that's what the UK is?
William III wasn't happy with being king under the new constitution, but he learned to live with it, reigning for over 40 years. During that time, he lost all 3 of his sons. One died as a child from meningitis, and the other 2 died in their 30s. The older one after a life of wild partying, and the younger one after a life of study. However, late in life...
Isn't meningitis like gum disease? Inflammation of brain and spinal cord membranes, typically caused by infection. I was way off. That sounds much worse. Why does that sound like a dentist term? Oh, no. Here.
William partying, and the younger one after a life of study. However, late in life, William III married for a second time and had a daughter named Wilhelmina, who was just 10 years old at the time of his death. Wilhelmina thus became the first reigning queen of the Netherlands, with her mother Queen Emma serving as her regent for the first 8 years. However, the laws of Luxembourg at the time did not allow for a female monarch, and therefore at this point the throne of Luxembourg passed to a distant male line relative named Adolphe. That law did, however, change because
that name really fell out of popularity after the 40s, huh?
Luxembourg did eventually have 2 reigning Grand Duchesses, the most recent being Charlotte, the grandmother of the current Grand Duke.
It's a nice name, Charlotte. Like French sounding.
She married a member of the House of Bourbon-Parma, and thus the current Grand Duke of Luxembourg is actually a male line descendant of the House of Capet, rather than the House of Nassau. But back to the Netherlands. Queen Wilhelmina ended up becoming the longest reigning Dutch monarch, living through both Wilhelmina ended up becoming the longest reigning Dutch monarch, living through both World War I and World War II. In between the wars, she also became the world's richest woman and the first female to become a billionaire. During World War II, she had to flee to London, where she joined the Dutch government in exile. Then, a few years after the war, she abdicated in favor of her only child, Juliana. However, had she continued to reign until her death in 1962, Wilhelmina would have had a total reign of 72 years, which would have been more than a year longer than Queen Elizabeth, but just a few months.
What? Oh, 70 years. I don't know why. I thought it was like 75. She was beautiful when she was younger. A lot reminds me of, was it Emily Clark, Amelia, the Game of Thrones dragon girl? They look similar to me.
Shy of the record set by Louis XIV. Prior to becoming queen, Juliana spent most of World War II in exile in Canada. Interestingly, while she was there, she gave birth to a third daughter, Princess Margriet. However, in order to avoid a Dutch royal becoming a subject of the British monarch, the Canadian government did something unique. Just prior to the birth, Canada declared the maternity ward of the Ottawa Civic Hospital to be temporarily not part of Canada. Thus, the princess was not legally born on Canadian soil, although in reality, she kind of was. The other strange thing about the birth was that the father of the baby, Juliana's husband, Prince Bernard, was a former Nazi. However, by
I was
the
gonna
time
say that. Why does he just look like one? He like, oh, Nazi. I don't know what it is. Other people look the same. I'm just like, the way he's staring, or like.
World War II started, he had married Juliana and had thus switched his allegiance to the Allies.
Oh,
in fact, he later became a commander of the Dutch armed forces and helped negotiate the German surrender. And then, of course, when Juliana became queen, he became the prince consort. During his tenure, he helped establish and chair the Bilderberg meetings, a somewhat secretive annual meeting of world leaders that continues to this very day and has led to all sorts of conspiracy theories. But even though Prince Bernard was controversial, Queen Juliana was extremely popular. She developed a very down-to-earth persona, often wearing very ordinary clothes and preferring to be called Mrs. rather than Her Majesty. During a major flooding disaster in 1953, she put on an old coat and boots and helped bring food to those affected. Like her mother before her, she decided to abdicate rather than serve until her death. Juliana had 4 daughters and no sons, and thus in 1980, her eldest daughter Beatrix became queen. Beatrix was married to a man named Klaus von Amsberg, who, like the previous prince consort, had some embarrassing connections to the Nazis, having been a member of the Hitler Youth and having served on the German side during the war.
I mean, I don't see this as very surprising. I remember like learning, there was a History Matters video. I think it was History Matters. I'm 90% sure. Like, what, 100%. It was History Matters video of why were so many prince or princess consort, like when, you know, the big empires, Spain, France, the UK, you know, they needed a husband for their princess or something. They would often go to German states prior to German unification because it makes it so there isn't a chance of, by some way, whether they're of their crown falling, like say Britain, you know what I mean? Like Britain wouldn't want to choose a Spanish or French husband to a British soon-to-be queen in case they get in charge. And so they would choose a lot of German state royals because they wouldn't really, they're not as powerful. And so they didn't. So it's not surprising, you know? And we're in hindsight. Clearly, if you were born in Germany, this drives me nuts. If you were born in Germany, you, me and you, if we were born in Germany in 1930, okay, we would have been in the Hitler Youth. We would have been in there. So I hate this delegation of blame on atrocities on a certain people's ancestors and therefore the people themselves. It's like, or like him who was in, oh my God, he was in the Hitler Youth. And it's just, you're being not smart.
However, despite these roots, Prince Klaus eventually became quite popular with the Dutch people. Beatrix was popular as well. He became quite popular with the Dutch people. Beatrix was popular as well and reigned for 33 years before becoming the third monarch in a row to abdicate in 2013. She is currently 84 and was among the many monarchs and former monarchs who attended Queen Elizabeth's funeral last.
Monaco, Norway, Netherlands, Spain, Luxembourg, Greece, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark. Gustav.
Year. So in 2013, the Netherlands got its first king in over 100 years, Willem-Alexander. One of my favorite facts about him is that he's also an experienced pilot. In fact, unbeknownst to the public until quite recently, he used to serve as first officer on regular KLM flights, even.
Such amazing, cool names. Charlotte's a great name. Wilhelmina, Leopold, Beatrix, I think is great. Willem-Alexander.
When he was king. Now, before I tell you about his family, let's switch over to our matrilineal dynasties of Europe chart, because I want to highlight the unique nature of the Dutch monarchy since 1890. The Netherlands is the only European country to have had 3 hereditary. Switch over to our matrilineal dynasties of Europe chart, because I want to highlight the unique nature of the Dutch monarchy since 1890. The Netherlands is the only European country to have had 3 hereditary female monarchs in a row. This was simply a coincidence because had Wilhelmina or Juliana had a son, that son would have become king, even if he wasn't the firstborn child. But from 1851 to 1967, no male babies were born into the Dutch royal family, and thus the Netherlands ended up having 3 queens in a row. This means that there has actually been a matrilineal dynasty reigning there for the last 132 years.
Imagine if Victoria and if Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II served back to back, because they both had super long reigns.
Even though this was not done on purpose. And what's even more interesting is that if we trace this particular matrilineal line, we discover that it includes lots of other queens as well. So while Queen Wilhelmina was, through her father, a member of the House of Orange-Nassau, through her mother, she connects to several other royal families. If we start from Queen Emma and keep going back from mother to mother in a strictly female-only line, we eventually come to a German countess named Maria Louise of Leiningen-Dagsburg-Falkenberg. And while it's generally not known, she's actually at the head of a huge matrilineal dynasty that produced 3 queen consorts of Sweden, 2 queen consorts of Denmark, a queen consort of Hanover, Bavaria, Romania, Prussia, and Belgium, as well as empress consorts of both Brazil and Russia.
What the
In fact, matrilineally speaking, 3 current monarchs belong to this exact same matrilineal dynasty. King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands, Queen Margrethe II of Denmark, and King Harold V of Norway.
Oh.
And on top of this, the final queen consort of Greece.
Ooh,
and the
she looks good looking. Astrid, Queen of Belgium.
Previous 2 kings of Belgium belong to it as well. If you find these hidden matrilineal dynasties interesting, I'll remind you that this particular poster traces 8 major matrilineal dynasties that played important roles in European history. And you can buy the poster at usefulcharts.com. Okay, before I go, let's look at the members of the current Dutch royal family using this helpful line of succession chart created by a fan. So Willem-Alexander is married to Queen Maxima, who is from Argentina.
All women. Oh no, Klaus.
There was an Argentine politician who served under the dictator Jorge Videla, a fact that created some controversy when the couple first decided to marry. As the story goes, when they first met, the future king introduced himself simply as Alexander, and later when he told her that he was the heir to the Dutch throne, she thought he was joking. The couple has 3 daughters and no sons, so it looks likely that the Netherlands will once again switch back to a reigning queen in the future.
Oh, so it doesn't go to this son over here. It goes to the first son's descendant regardless.
Nowadays, the title Prince of Orange or Princess of Orange is used for the person who is first in line to the Dutch throne. That person is currently Catharina Amalia. Although I should point out that she is not a member of the matrilineal dynasty that I pointed out earlier, being that she would belong to her mother's matrilineal line, not her father's. Fourth in line is the king's younger brother Constantine, followed by his 3 children.
Wow.
The king also had another brother named Friso, but he unfortunately died in an avalanche accident. Friso married without parliamentary permission, and thus his 2 daughters are not in the line of succession. Which means that his 2 daughters, Friso married without parliamentary permission, which means that the 8th and final person in line for the throne is Beatrix's sister Marguerite, who is the one who I mentioned earlier as being born in Canada, but not Canada. However, her children are not in the line of succession because unlike in the UK, the Netherlands limits the line of succession to the descendants of the current monarch and to individuals who are 1 or 2 steps away from the monarch on the family tree. So for example, Eloise is 2 steps away. This means that her children will be 3 steps away and therefore not in the line of succession. So she will always be followed by her brother. I should also note that Beatrix's other living sister, Princess Irene, is also not in the line of succession because she married a Catholic, the former Duke of Parma. However, this
does kind of like Gustav of Sweden.
Mean that King Willem Alexander and the current Duke of Parma, Carlos, are first cousins. Okay, so that was a look at the family tree of the stadtholders of the Dutch Republic and the monarchs of the Netherlands. Once again, if you want a copy of the poster, you can head over to usefulcharts.com. Thanks for watching.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Really interesting. Love learning. Keep learning with me. Hope you're all doing well. See you next time. Bye, guys.